I asked you all, what's one thing that frustrates you about church communications?
Today, we're sharing the most popular answers.
We'll go in order, saving the most popular response for last.
And we'll share some of our advice from the trenches on how to fix these recurring issues.
Let's dive in. Well, hey there, and welcome to the Pro Church Tool Show. We're here to help you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm Brady Shearer, your host. I'm joined as always by my co-host. We call him Pastor Pasta. It's Alexander Mills.
Hello.
And we recently asked you all on Instagram, what's the worst part of being involved in church comms? And we tabulated all the responses. We have ordered them in reverse chronological order. Many of them were the same. Many. Some of them were strange. We've omitted those. But many
Some
of them
unfiltered. Can't share those.
Yes. Yes. The internet is forever, people, even when it is a DM. But hey, your call. So we have got the 7 most popular responses. And as I was looking through them, what stood out to me is that all of these issues are downstream from not having things like comms systems, policy, and infrastructure established in your church. And so as we go through the items, we'll be highlighting how these problems get fixed with better systems. We've got real examples to share with you. The good news is this: you're probably going to be familiar with one or multiple of these,
sure.
But there are solutions.
Yes.
These do not exist in every single church, and we're going to talk about how to shore them up.
Hey, that's one of our values here in this company, which is when there is a problem, to come at it with a solution in mind. So it's better than just rattling off all of the pains that people are feeling in church comms and saying, hey, there's a bunch of problems. But in fact, there are certainly some solves for these. So you want to get going, reverse chronological with number 7?
Number 7.
All right, this is the lack of risk-taking and defaulting to the same old comfortable and easy thing.
Right. So said differently, the we've always done it this way syndrome. And this is pretty typical in smaller churches where there isn't maybe like a ton of new blood coming in the door. There isn't a ton of novelty in terms of events and ministries. And perhaps there's some level of lack in terms of vision from senior leadership. And so what happens is you just start like recycling the same things over and over again, which then translates to a recycling of attitude and mindset and belief for what's possible. One of the most powerful exercises that you can do to get rid of this behavior, or at least start to like fight against it. Because, if you are not the senior leader, perhaps you're like feeling powerless. But one of the things that you can do is go through an exercise to create audience personas. And this exercise is done with the objective of trying to understand what's a person type that my church wants to reach, and how would what we're doing as a church perhaps intersect with that type of person.
Yeah.
And this can get you out of your own shoes and into theirs. And so we're not going to go through the full exercise on how to do that. We do that in Pro Church Certified, but I wanted to give you one of the audience personas that we developed in the logo and branding module from Certified. So this person is called Faraway Fiona.
Nice.
Here's a rule of audience personas. If they're not alliterative, you will fail, okay? Because what happens is, we'll get through like the full description of this, hypothetical individual here in a moment, but the shorthand will become their name.
Yes.
If you use it enough, as you should, because it's such a tremendously useful asset in so many different applications, you'll just say like, oh, Faraway Fiona, and everyone will know what you're talking about. So Faraway Fiona is described like this. Fiona is in her mid-20s. She's in a stable relationship with a nice guy following a messy breakup. They've talked about marriage. Fiona works as an esthetician, but sometimes wishes she had followed a path into holistic nutrition. She's open to spiritual things. Right now, that looks like sound bowl therapy and healing crystals.
Of course it does.
Christian stuff has always felt a little bit too dogmatic for her. Fiona needs a communication style that is compassionate and leaves space for her questions so she can start to open herself up to ideas that she's typically been closed off to. One of the easy ways to create audience personas is to think about who currently exists in our church, what type of people, and who do we want to reach in church, what type of people. Typically 4 should be good enough. They're not all meant to be people that you're trying to reach. Like one of our audience personas is Kathy Christian. She's like a person that is like devoted to church and is coming all the time. That's one of the people that our church, in this example, is good and equipped to reach. I like to use real people and real details from their lives, but not their actual names. Sure. So like, if you were listening to that and you're like, no, some highly specific stuff, it's because like it's based on a compilation of a couple real people that I know in my life. And I think about like them, and okay, how could they get connected to church? So to our original point of that it's always been done this way syndrome, if you basically take what you're doing as a church and then evaluate it through the lens of Faraway Fiona, that's a good way if you're kind of stuck in that cycle of we're just doing the same things over and over again, and so we're approaching them in the same way. And now that's entrenched ourselves into this like, well, so be it type of mindset. This can break you free from that.
If you're the senior leader listening to this show today, and this is resonating with you, you have the power to like be self-aware about that and bring this to your team from the top down and say, hey, I'm noticing this about us. Here's how we're going to get unstuck here. But Brady, if I'm the young gun listening to this show today and I feel this pain point and I have the energy to like get us unstuck, how do I bring this, how do I broach this to our senior leadership?
Here's what's great about audience personas. They're just stories. This Faraway Fiona description is a story about a real person, a couple of real people. It's a story about a real type of person. And so when you present something like this, what often happens is the senior leader starts thinking about people in their own life. So the senior leader is like, oh, you know what? Yeah, like when I go to the gym, there's always this guy. Or you know what? When I play, flag football or I play pickleball, there's always this one guy on my team. And he starts thinking about that person. She starts thinking about that person. And now you can form an audience persona around that. And what's so great about storytelling is that it's really the only type of communication that can actually force us to change our minds. Not through logic, not through convincing, but through inspiration. And so if you come and you bring this to the table, if nothing else, it helps everyone evaluate whatever you're stuck on through a different lens, which is powerful enough on its own, but it can also spearhead this type of thinking and storytelling in the minds of the senior leadership.
It certainly does appeal to a pastoral sense, but does require these personas, if you dare to craft them and employ the strategy at your church, it does require like an acute sense of place. You can't be crafting personas of people who don't belong to your geographical location. If you're a rural church like mine, there's a very particular type of person who belongs to our church, and honestly, a particular type of person that might stumble upon our church, might be interested in joining our church compared to an inner city church, which is an entirely different geographical location, reaching a totally different type of socioeconomic position. So it does require like an acute sense of place as well. Moving on to number 6, most people care about doing the thing rather than being effective at the thing.
I just wanted to read the first 3 line items in our church comms policy because it really does help provide boundaries to communications and fulfilling the projects in your church. The first item is awareness is not interest. And it reads like this: getting people to know about an event is not the goal. The goal is to move them toward action. Every communication should drive a clear next step, not just passive awareness. Okay, that's number 1. Awareness is not interest. Number 2, Sunday is not your savior. It reads like this: a stage announcement won't magically solve low attendance or engagement. The belief that Sunday morning can fix every promo will keep our church from building real solutions. And then finally, number 3, the more you announce, the less they listen. Overloading people with information backfires. When everything is emphasized, nothing feels important, and response rates go down. To summarize, awareness is not interest, number 1. Sunday is not your savior, number 2. And the more you announce, the less they listen, number 3. To the complaint from the church comms people of the world. Most people care about doing the thing rather than being effective at the thing. When you have policy that is installed, this problem becomes antithetical to the policy. And the policy is the anchor, not your belief, church communicator, not the feelings or opinions of other people in the church. The policy is the anchor. And the policy is the anchor because it's been formally installed and because it is itself anchored to the mission of the church, which is the ultimate accountability matrix for everything that you do. So if some idea becomes prevalent of like, well, we just got to check the box. Like, okay, well, no, our goal is not even just to like let people know about an event, just check the box. We did the announcement. We did it and it was from stage. We did the announcement. No, that's not the goal. The goal is to get people to respond. And the more you announce, the less they listen. So we can't just like do endless announcements. And Sunday is not your savior, meaning like we're not just going to get a stage announcement and share your details about the event and like magically see response rates like go beyond what we can even hold in a room. And then awareness is not interest. And so like if you can anchor these problems to policy, what we always say on the show is that 1, now it's not becoming you versus this other person. And 2, and we'll get to this a little bit later in one of the other problems, it demonstrates to other people that you know what you're doing. Because the unspoken problem with all of these concerns that people have shared is that they do demonstrate a lack of system, policy, and infrastructure. And look, I'm going to speak honest here, okay? Not holding back. If I was in a church where it was clear to me that the person in charge of comms didn't have any rhyme or reason for why they were doing things, my confidence in them would not be high. Because they don't have a plan, they don't have a vision. They're just like fulfilling creative projects. And this is what happens when the creative in the church gets put in charge of these things. They were put in charge because they're good at Photoshop. And suddenly they're in charge of like figuring out how to get people to go to events. Like that's not easy. So I'm not trying to share this with a lack of compassion, but simply put to say, if you can install these things, you'll probably start getting more respect.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Now, to the last problem and the solution we proposed, there was a sense of like place and particularity that was required to kind of craft those personas for your church. This church comms policy, is this good to, like, do you think it's appropriate to literally copy and paste this and install this at your church? Do you think that this needs much like tailoring to a specific church, or is this one like, yeah, copy, paste, install?
Now, this is copy and paste.
Yeah.
Big church, small church, medium church. This is true for all ministries of all sizes. And we often say like, the type of church that comes to me and is ready to install this is the church that like went from like 200 to 600 and they're like, praise God. Oh my God. Also, what are we doing? This is impossible. They're like, everyone's excited, but like everything is chaotic and disorganized. And then we have to go through the process of basically like building the plane as the trip is in motion. So like if you are a smaller church, now is the time to install these things, especially because when you are a smaller church, everyone's a little bit more intimately familiar with each other. And so like the potential for interpersonal conflict is even higher because you're all putting your hands in the different pots.
Yeah, certainly. So go ahead. If you're listening, copy and paste that one. Feel completely free.
Go back, just like 30 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever seconds. Just listen. You know, you can get like auto transcriptions nowadays from podcasts. You copy and paste.
All right, moving on. Number 5. We just have too many events to talk about.
I recently did an exercise for Pro Church Certified where we were creating a 3-month promotional calendar for events. And I wanted to go like expert level impossible edition. So I did my church's calendar. So I scraped my church's calendar.
A big church, lots of events.
90 days. How many events do you think we had in 90 days? October, November, December.
So I know a little bit about your church. I know there's at least one event per day because you're renting out the building. So
This is not including, like, this is only church stuff.
Okay, only church stuff.
This is not like, oh, we got pickleball rental, just church
Okay,
things.
but you still have a high priority on your Connect group. So I'm still going to say at least one per day. I'm going to push it to 3 per day.
Yeah.
So that's 90 times 3. Okay, 270 events.
About double that.
Really?
It was like 492.
Wow.
And that's with like the final week of December, nothing happens.
Right.
So that's like a handicapped quarter.
Wow.
492 events. Now, some of those are recurring events, like, oh, we have junior youth on Wednesdays, but that's still like a thing that's happening. 492.
That is a lot of events. It's a real problem. We have too many events. How can you talk about that?
I took 492 events and I put them into a promotional calendar and it slayed, okay? So trust me when I say, for 99.99% of the people listening, I have more events. And so this is actually not a problem so long as you can organize events. The problem churches run into is they treat all events equally. That is not how this should be done. The running club morning group that meets every other Saturday does not warrant the same level of promotion and attention in the church as trunk or treat, where 5,000 people will come and like visit the church's campus.
Yes.
So what we do is we separate our events into 5 levels. And this is like, again, a full exercise we do in Certified. Enrollment is opening again in 2026, prochurchcertified.com. But like, let me give you the breakdown of the 5 levels right now. Level 1 is any event that applies to 80% or more of the congregation or is a bridge event. So what would fall under that service time change? That would apply to everyone. VBS, Fall Festival, Christmas, Easter. Level 1 events. They get the highest priority communications and the most church-wide promotion. Makes sense. Level 2 events are core next steps. These are the things that everyone needs for discipleship and church integration. Doesn't mean everyone's doing them, but you like want them to be done. Small groups, volunteering, giving, assimilation class like growth track, new visitor connection, baptism, right? virtually the same in almost every church. That's level 2. Level 3 is next gen, gets its own level because as we've discussed so many times, next gen is unique in church life in how it affects vitality and growth and overall health. It doesn't, it's not proportionate to attendance or how many students, kids, or young adults are in your ministry. It needs to be treated on its own. Growing Young, Fuller Institute, all the research based on that.
So good.
That's what justifies that. Level 4 are individual departments, ministries, and groups. Level 5 are individual events within individual ministries. So level 4 is like the running club. That's the small group. And then level 5 is the Saturday morning meetup that happens every, fourth Saturday at Jake's Cafe or whatever. Once you've separated your events into these 5 different levels, now you can begin basically deciding, okay, if I was a level 1 event, what type of promotional assets would I deserve? Would I deserve a stage announcement? Sure. If I was a level 5 event, Jake's Running Club, would I deserve a stage announcement? Probably not. And you can go through and figure out what gets what. You cannot, hear me, doesn't matter what size of church you are. I have been in churches of 13 people and they do 13 announcements and they last 28 minutes, okay? Don't go, oh, he's talking about big churches here. I'm actually only talking about small churches. You are the worst offenders. We are the worst offenders, okay? Separated them into levels. You cannot treat them equally. And once you've done that, you can now start to build out a promo calendar because you can say, okay, we're going to slot in all the level 1 events. Look, we have a limit on how many emails we're willing to send a week. You do. How many emails? You probably don't have a number that you've said out loud.
Exactly.
Do you send 100?
You have a
no,
feeling.
It's fewer. Okay. Is it 2? Is it more? Like, it's probably a range. Okay. So based on just natural, organic email sending, you probably say, we will send up to 3 emails a week. On a normal week, 2. Okay, great. You got 2 email slots a week.
Who's getting them?
What level of event deserves them? Okay, well, if all events, let's say you did treat it equally. Let's say you did, okay? You don't listen to anything I say. If nothing else, it would make sense to start with level 1. Okay, so you say, these are all of our different promotional slots in our church, okay? We have 2 emails. Well, we have 2 level 1 events this week that we have to talk about. Great, your emails are gone. So now you have to find other ways to promote. And when you set up this infrastructure and when you set up this system, 1, you get the respect, because you have a system that people understand, okay, there's rhyme and reason to this. It's anchored to mission. And 2, you are not pulling your hair out and going crazy because you have 492 events and you think that they all need a stage announcement.
Yeah, and you can see how all of these problems are kind of interconnected in the sense that without a formal policy, the execution really does fall apart, and the result is often interpersonal conflict, right? If you don't have a policy for why Jake's Running Club doesn't get a stage announcement, well, Jake, the organizer of the running club,
he hates you.
Like, he's going to feel slighted. But he does know, even though he loves his running club more than he loves the Lord, he does know that it doesn't deserve the same priority as advertising for Christmas. Like, he would not disagree with that. So when you all acknowledge the thing that we all believe, which is some events deserve more priority than others, when you put that in a policy, in a 5-tiered chart, if you care to follow kind of our framework here, then you can at least visualize it. And then Jake and everyone else has to submit to the policy, and there's very little to argue about. It's like, yeah, okay, I love running and I love my run club and I'm allowed to run it, but we all agree here that it doesn't deserve the same priority as Christmas or trunk or treat or insert other level 1 or 2 thing. And so then he doesn't get disappointed when the answer for a stage announcement is no, because he understands that there is a yes somewhere else. No, you can't have this. We're not emailing the church about your running club on Tuesday, but we will make the church aware of it in these other ways. So he gets to feel seen and heard, and the people who want to hear about the running club, the people who want to feel informed about the running club, they're going to get their communication. It's just not going to come from stage.
Yeah, and in Certified, we have playbooks for every single level of event. So like, I literally hand you in a download the level 4 and 5 playbook for promoting these events. And you can take that to Jake and be, okay, here's what you are allowed. Here's how you can promote this.
Yeah.
And there are ways of doing church-wide promotion for these events. You just have to understand like the correct channels and how to do it properly. And then what's great is that you treat Jake equally to how you treat the movie, the cinephile small group, whatever, the ballroom dancing small group, the Portuguese Bible study small group. They're all treated the same. And so like, Jim, who runs the cinephile group, is not being like favored more because it just so happens that the comms director is part of the cinephile group.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone's being treated equally. And you give them resources like, oh, okay, so here's how I need to do this. Great. I can operate within this workflow.
Yeah. You listen to us long enough, your pastor is certainly going to throw Jake a sprinkle promo when he's talking about running the race in his sermon.
There you go. So that's organic. That's natural.
Jake is going to be seen and heard. He's all right. All right, moving on. That was too many events. Number 4, pastor or staff does not understand how long this stuff takes.
This has such an easy solution. You just need to establish expectations for deliverables.
So you're saying on Saturday night when pastor emails and says, hey, the sermon that I told you I was going to preach, the Spirit came upon me. I have been swayed in a different direction. I need an entirely new video intro stinger for tomorrow morning. You're saying that doesn't quite fit to the policy?
We'll get later to actual verbiage and language to use for this type of thing. Mm-hmm. I am empathetic to senior leaders. I am not empathetic to senior leaders. I am empathetic to the people listening who serve senior leaders who chronically do this. Chronic disregard for people is not great. And we talked about this on, I think it was last week's episode.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about emotional instability in leaders, might have been a couple of weeks ago, and how that gets expressed. Sometimes it's just like moody people who come in and they're just like in a bad mood. Like your pastor, I don't know, we're getting a good day or a bad day. Other times, emotional instability is expressed as disorganization. And like it can lead to this type of thing. When you have timelines in place, if nothing else, your senior leader will understand what they're asking of you.
Right.
The heart of the concern is here saying, like, people don't understand. Mm-hmm. They don't know what goes into it. Okay, like, have you established timelines so that they're aware? Most people aren't creative. Most people are just like, oh, like AI makes a graphic now. It's like 30 seconds, 3 seconds.
Like even an email. It takes, like you and I both regularly write emails like this. It could take an hour to really write a well-crafted email that's leading to an important next step. It doesn't just take 5 minutes to fire off an email. And so you're right, but just by setting expectations to say like, hey, actually, you may assume that it takes me 5 minutes to fire off an email, but it actually takes this long for these reasons. That helps set and in many cases reframe the expectations of you as a communications director or whoever you are that's responsible for communications, whether it's emailing or like you said, graphic design, video creation, whatever it is.
We are providing in the description of this episode on YouTube and in your podcast player, a download from Pro Church Certified.
Are you just giving the whole program away for free today or?
I mean, this download has 2 project request timelines from 2 different real churches that you can look at as an example to see like what are other churches kind of setting for expectations here. As an example, church number 1, graphics, sermon series, pre-show slide, lower slides, 4 to 6 hours. No, 4 to 6 weeks is their like turnaround time for them. The other church, graphic design, minimum of 3 weeks before delivery date. That's a little different than night before. Mm-hmm. That's what real churches are installing because they care about their creatives, they care about organization, and they care about every single promotional need being served. Mm-hmm. And that's not possible when you don't have expectations and when people just demand things willy-nilly. You just wouldn't do that in a lot of other ministries.
Right. Or workplaces.
Again, why? I want to put the responsibility on the people listening. Why? Because responsibility, when it's put on you, means that you have autonomy. You have agency in this situation. Have you established systems, scaffolding, infrastructure? No? Well, then no wonder you're being treated like crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's certainly true.
Wow, I'm being mean today. I didn't anticipate this.
Want to move to the top 3?
Hopefully not any meaner than we've been so far.
All right. Top 3. People complain that there isn't enough info, and they complain when there's too much. So you just can't win, why try?
Yeah. So this comes down to, are you an inspiration church or are you an information church? Here's what we say about inspiration over information. Facts and details don't move people, stories do. We use storytelling to inspire next steps instead of drowning people in data. The heart of this complaint is what? People complain there isn't enough info and they complain when there's too much. That is the symptom of an information church where they share things by listing out information and details. And people will not absorb any of that data. And so then they get upset or annoyed when they have to sit through announcements through all information, ironically, not absorbing the thing that they claim they want.
Right.
The fix here, and we've seen this work in so many churches, is to move from an information church to an inspiration church, where you give the people in your congregation the agency to get the information they need when they need it, and you just focus on telling stories and inspiring them. Why? Goes back to the earlier policy item. Awareness is not interest. So even if you did have a congregation, let's hypothetically talk about this. They're just all robots and they perfectly retain information. They never forget it. That still wouldn't drive them towards next steps.
That's right.
If I tell you about a movie, there's a movie. This is its name.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I was just going to say, we've used this analogy for a decade, and it's because it's the best analogy. There's no way to get away from this. But like when a theater or a production house wants you to go see their movie, they're showing you a trailer and ending the trailer by saying, in theaters soon.
I'm going to tell you about this movie. It's called The Heart of Imagination. It's playing on Tuesday night at 7, at 9:30, and at 11:10. The movie is 2 hours and 11 minutes in runtime, okay? And it's starring Jack Quaid. You want to go?
I don't feel inspired to go at all. In fact, I tuned out while you were saying that until you said Jack Quaid, and I thought, who's Jack Quaid?
Wow, that just shows how out of touch you are. I think that's a real actor. I think it's Dennis Quaid's son.
Okay.
You know Dennis Quaid?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. What would that movie do? First of all, not a real movie. Invented it right now. If that movie existed, they would make a trailer cutting together the most exciting parts, and at the end would be like, coming soon, or find showtimes online. And then if you were inspired, you would then find the showtimes.
Yeah, because I know how. I know how to go to cineplex.com.
And guess what? The people in your church do that when they go to movies.
Yeah.
They are competent humans, and they can track down showtimes. You might say, well, my church is old. Yeah? Have they ever been to a movie? They can go into the newspaper. They can track it. They are competent humans.
Yeah.
So you then just need to create the destination. And this is why the Central Hub website is so critical and so crucial. You need to have that singular next step every single time. I know in our country, we have Cineplex. I know to go to cineplex.com because that's always where they have the showtimes. Does your church know to go to your website? Is your website properly resourced? Go watch on YouTube the church website masterclass on the Brady Shearer channel. Build your website. Go to nucleus.church. Get a free website makeover. We'll build the whole thing for you. You'll have a Central Hub website. Point people there every single time. You will not have this problem anymore. It will take 6 months, and you have to stick to it. You have to follow the process, okay? This is like fitness and nutrition. You can't just have one great workout, eat Taco Bell in bed, Brady, and then think it's all going to be okay. I'm talking to you, me.
Yeah, who are you really upset with today?
You know what? Wow! Therapy hour. Crazy.
All right, moving on. The second most written in complaint from church comms people is this: people who are not in comms thinking that they know best.
The reality is that there are always going to be people in church that suck, because there are people that suck.
Yeah.
And there will always be that prototype. Maybe they're one of your audience personas. That prototype who just can point out the problems and be like, imply that they could do things better. And they're a know-it-all, and you know in your heart of hearts that they have no idea what they're talking about. That is true, irrespective of anything that you do. But this problem gets exaggerated, as we've discussed already, when you don't have any systems in place.
Yeah.
Because downstream of that is a lack of confidence in you. The informality of the comms role is at the heart of this issue. Because who gets put in charge of comms? Usually someone who's like good at creative.
Right.
And they don't really know what they're doing. And I have compassion for that. That was me when I was first in this role. The thing about comms is that unlike being the video editor, it has such more far-reaching consequences than like, did your graphic look good or not?
Right.
Because comms is essentially like, are people getting involved in the life of this church? Is discipleship taking place? Because if you can't inspire people to like give and volunteer and get baptized and serve, then you're not building a church of active participants. You just have a church of passive spectators. And guess what? They only come on average 2 out of 5 Sundays. So they're barely even coming to church every other week. They're not. And so comms is like, wow, we really need this to work, because if we can inspire people to action, we can transform the entire landscape of this church.
Yeah.
And yet the person in charge is me at 21 being like, I downloaded a Photoshop template. Like that was me, 15 years ago. And this informality, what does it do? It creates this byproduct of people trying to tell you what to do, because they can tell, you know what, this is not a confident department right now. You install all these systems, and as we'll get to in a moment, you enforce them, and you will at very least basically prove to people that, you know what, this is how I do things. You may disagree with how they're done, but you can't look at how I'm doing them and be like, they don't have a plan. And now we can talk about like, if you like the plan, if you don't like the plan, which is very different from like when you look at someone, you're like, oh, they're drowning. I'm going to step in and help.
That's right. You want to get to it?
Sure.
The most popular pain point written in by people who work in church comms. We alluded to it briefly. It's last minute requests.
Yeah, this was far and away number one. Not really close.
Trying to think all these senior pastors, of which I'm one, so I get to say something like that. But
you are the problem.
We really are the problem.
You're a senior pastor?
Well, I mean, we share the burden.
Oh, okay. I was like, did something happen?
No.
Okay. Yes, last night my dad established me.
We had a big ceremony. Where were you?
I didn't even show up.
Taco Bell in bed.
Oh gosh. I don't want to talk about it. I had a good run with Taco Bell. I was real happy.
Like of abstinence?
No, of enjoying it.
Oh.
Like digestively living my best life. It tasted great.
Feeling good.
Well, they opened a new Taco Bell that was really close to my house. So if I door dashed it at 10, it would come and it was still kind of hot. Like Taco Bell degrades faster than any fast food. The only way I used to eat it was like twice a year in my sadness. Okay, Jays lose the World Series. What do? Next day, I go drive through Taco Bell. I sit in their parking lot and I eat it because otherwise it dies.
It's dark.
It was so close to my house. I was like, okay, maybe it'll. And the last couple times, oh my gosh, like just awful. Couldn't finish it that bad. I was trying to think of what is the best way to serve the need here of people who have sent in this concern. Worst part of my job, last minute requests. I wanted to read from you actual communications policy from a real church.
Okay.
I'm going to read it verbatim so that you can see how this is being solved in other ministries.
This is a good one. Good example.
This problem exists in many churches. It doesn't exist in every church. There is a solution. That solution is policy that is enforced. And so here's how one church who said we could share it with you wrote it. Since the communications team works with every department, we've got our hands in everything. We work on everything from designing graphics for sermon series to apparel for the resource booth to editing videos for service and social media to helping plan events and promoting serving opportunities and more. Collecting info for projects through email just doesn't cut it. So we use a project request system. This system helps us handle our tasks so that we can focus on the needs of our guests while meeting the needs of the ministries. Inputting your requests in a timely manner helps us help you. Submit your requests at, and then they shared their internal URL, which we will keep private here. This church goes on to describe their request system and how it works in greater detail. Quote, first, you must submit a request for each project. We do not accept projects via email, Microsoft Teams, carrier pigeons, text messages, hallway conversations, or smoke signals. Choose the correct form and fill it out completely. If our team doesn't have all the info, we may not be able to fulfill your project. After you smash that submit button, a member of the comm team will assign your request to the right person. If the team doesn't have the capacity to fulfill your project, we will help you find a solution, which may include working with a volunteer or a contractor. Now, you can tailor this is me talking now, to your own church. They're obviously a church that has a comm team.
Sure.
Volunteer, almost certainly, maybe a couple of paid creatives. So something comes in and they go, okay, this is for our graphic designer, Katie. Okay, this is for our video director, Johnny. And it goes to the right person. For you, you might just remove this part that says a member of the comm team will assign your request to the right person because it would read, a member of the comm team, aka me only, will assign this to me. I want to pause and just acknowledge it shouldn't come as a surprise, this is the comms team, but how well written this is. It is firm, but fun. This is how you navigate these tricky situations, okay? Firm, but fun. Think of some of the language used. We do not accept requests except through the system. They then go on to say, here's some ways that won't work. Smoke signals, carrier pigeons, right? So they're being like lighthearted about it while still saying, this is how we function. Firm, but fun.
And can I say just a brief aside to all the adults in the room, we can achieve this tone, firm but fun, without emojis.
Okay, mister, I only send GIFs.
Okay, that's different. We're talking about policy.
I was thinking about this yesterday. I was driving. And you know how just things come to you.
Sure.
And I was thinking about you and I was like, you know, he never uses emojis. He thinks he's so mature. And I was like, he sent me a Rachel McAdams notebook GIF yesterday. Not mature.
No, but I'm talking about policy.
If your pastor sent you a Rachel McAdams notebook GIF, what would you think? I'd have some questions.
Do you not agree?
From the POV of Rachel McAdams, to be clear. Not I'm Ryan Gosling. I'm Rachel McAdams. He was Rachel McAdams.
I worked hard for that, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in writing formal policy, whether it's printed or digital, if you're saving it in Notion or wherever, Teams, whatever, I think you can achieve this tone, and this church proves it. You can achieve this tone of like a little bit of levity while also saying something like drawing some pretty like stark barriers, hard lines here.
Yep.
But without like getting into emojis or a little LOL at the end, I think there's an adult way.
Well, and not being cold.
Yes.
Because that's the other side of this. Where you just come off as a jerk.
Yes, exactly.
Because there are those people that are like power hungry that just want to have like their world and they control it as if it was like a dictatorship.
Yeah.
I remember coming across this type of person for the first time when I worked at the deli. That was my first job in a grocery store. And like the department manager would always talk about what was going on in the possessive. So if you start noticing this, you'll see it everywhere. But you'll be like, hi, yeah, can I get some potato wedges? My potato wedges aren't ready yet. I have for you, here's what I have right now. It's like as if it was like like everything belonged to them.
Yeah.
I don't have any slots available for that right now in my calendar. I have this, I have this, I have this. I always just thought, and this is a small thing, and this shows why I'm in communications, but like I would speak about that as like, the calendar, not like my calendar, or like I don't have any potato wedges. It's like, oh, we don't have any potato wedges. I would talk about, but it was just like, they wanted full control. And we see that in church. Like I remember having sound people like this. They're kind of the famous ones. Like, hi, can I have more guitar in my ears? Nope.
In fact, you're going to get less.
They're my ears. Sorry, can't do it. All right?
Yeah.
So we know what that's like. You want to establish the tone, which is firm but fun, because then you are approachable. And they kind of go on to like figuring out, and this is kind of like here's what's been floating over this entire conversation. Well, what about when people just don't listen? What about when they don't follow through? And they talk about that. Because invariably, when you have firm policy, people will be left out of options, right? Like, hey, this is the policy. Someone's not going to come on time.
Your pastor is going to say on Sunday morning, like, this is the curveball of all curveballs. Yeah. Everything that I told you we're doing today, we're not, and we're doing this. So you better figure it out.
They say, we get it. Sometimes life happens. See, again, like
we get it.
Empathizing. You're not going to get it. You're graphic, but we understand. We get it how you arrived at the situation. Sometimes life happens and submitting a project request gets put on the back burner. If you realize that you forgot to put in a request and need something last minute, you may submit a request or shoot us a Teams message in our, we would use Slack here. Shoot us a Slack message to see if we have the time and ability to take on the project. While we will do our best to help you, we cannot guarantee that we can help with every single last minute request. And a gentle reminder, love this, a gentle reminder. A lack of planning on the part of the requester does not constitute a change in priority level, so please plan ahead. A gentle reminder, a lack of planning.
Winky face emoji.
No, Rachel McAdams GIF. A lack of planning on the part of the requester does not constitute a change in priority level, so please plan ahead.
Copy and paste that into your
Let's imagine Alex comes to me, okay? And the problem pastor that he is, it's Saturday night, and he's like, I need a graphic. First offense, I'm going to do it. And then Sunday's going to happen. I'm not going to bring up anything on Sunday. It's going to happen. I'm not going to mention anything on Saturday. Tuesday, my first day at the office. I come in and I'm going to say, hey, here's the policy that we have. Remember when we had our meeting and you agreed to this policy? I didn't unilaterally install this. We had the chat. So when you submitted that request to me on Saturday night, it made things really challenging because I don't normally work then, or I had other things in my workflow that were properly put into the channels. So like, we really can't have that happen again. Like emergencies happen, sure, but like we don't want this to become chronic. Guaranteed, your pastor will say, oh, right, I do remember establishing that. It's not Sunday morning. They're focused. They're back at work. They're not like in a thought, okay, I won't do that again. Like they don't have other things to focus on right now. And they will respect that. Now, if you have a pastor who every single week does this and every week you meet with them and they go, absolutely, I will change. And okay, great. You have a toxic leader. Like that, like in 9 out of 10 cases, you have reasonable humans.
Totally.
And what can happen is, let's say Pastor Alex does this on week 2. I'm probably not going to do it on week 2. How will I avoid it? Maybe I just don't respond to the text. Sorry, I didn't get it. I'm on Do Not Disturb, so I actually didn't get it. I'm not lying to my pastor here, people. Or maybe I just say, sorry, I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. Because it doesn't matter who is it. Like, all leaders are accountable to the mission of the church. And departmental policies are expressions of the mission of the church. And the senior leader does not have the authority to go above the mission of the church. They are accountable to that. They are a servant to that because the mission of the church is ultimately brought on by God, and we are all servants of God. So ultimately, the pastor must do what I say in policy.
Well, I mean,
that was a glib at the end.
No, but installing policy like that, this protects people who are lower in the hierarchical org chart.
Sure.
But it also protects the senior leader from abusing their position, right? Because if they agree and acknowledge that, like, yeah, it's the final word it does not come out of my mouth. It's this agreed upon kind of living document that all of our team has collaborated on that submits and keeps us anchored to the mission and vision of our church. Then it also protects the senior leader from abusing their authority in the church. So, I think at the end of this conversation, it's plain to see how so many, and I would say all of these pain points that folks wrote in and said, like, hey, this is what I'm really going through in my job in church comms. There is a solve here through installing like clear, sometimes concise, but like clear policy so that, decisions or behavior in your church and in your teams and even in your congregation isn't dependent on thoughts or feelings or positions in the org chart, but it's like, no, we all have this agreed upon kind of external thing that is not written on stone tablets. I just used the phrase earlier, like a living document. And it can, like these policies can bend over time as your church community and your culture evolves for sure. But like this type of strategy, these systems really do shield you from a lot of these pain points.
Make sure to download the project request timelines Pro Church Certified doc in the description. Not saying that is not gospel. You don't have to look and be like, all right, we must have 3 to 6 weeks on our graphics. The point is to see like, okay, these are actual timelines that real churches have established. So make sure to download that. Thank you for your time, attention, and trust. We will talk to you next Wednesday. Rachel McAdams, our Canadian goat.
Looks like things getting a little easier.